I was born in Youngstown, Ohio, the Rust Belt. And by the time I defined myself as an artist, Youngstown, like other Midwest towns, was really in decline and decay. Really, as a young artist, I would explore these empty shells of buildings, and I really found beauty in the aging surfaces. The loss of my father at the age of 7, I developed as an artist by replacing his presence by painting objects or personal belongings that I think represented his life as it related to mine. All my early work was metaphorical and referential. My iconography of fedoras and men's suits and old Cadillacs and even vintage toys, I think, were all a way of looking back at his past as I navigated my future. And at 15, my 80-year-old Italian grandparents moved into our household, and they really merged a lifetime of belongings that they owned with ours. And I remember rummaging through our garage, and there'd be 3 lawnmowers and 20 shovels and just tons and tons of objects that they had brought along with them. Objects have always held meaning for me, and I think I assign kind of a poignancy or a personality to them when I paint them. And really, as early as my undergraduate years at Ohio State, I've been doing that. And I remember my initial attraction to Marcel Duchamp's ready-mades and the common object, and that then grew into studying Robert Rauschenberg's Columbines and even Jasper John's targets. They were using ephemera, things that they found on the street and off of telephone poles, and bringing them into the studio and gluing them down and making art with them. And that's pretty much what my initial attraction was. I pretty much use ephemera in almost every one of my pieces, and I think of the paper collaged elements is just another aspect of the painting. And I call it painting with paper. And much of the backgrounds are ephemera, and I think of them kind of as a stage set where my painted imagery floats on top of that. My process for collage is, there's sort of different steps that I do. I will spend hours and days sometimes cutting out the base material for a piece that I have in mind. And then once I have it all cut up, then I'll have my sort of collage days, and I'll begin to glue down with this mixture that is sort of my secret sauce that's archival. And I'll begin to glue individual pieces down that I've cut out based on the idea that I have. I spend a lot of time in this room. Really, a lot of times I'll come in here at night, and it'll be low lighting, and I consider this room really kind of an apothecary. It's sort of a collection of things that I've been gathering for years and years and years, and I try to do one piece a day. I call it kind of journaling, and it's an exercise that's really helpful. I tell a lot of my students to do one thing every day, no matter how small it is. And before you know it, you'll have a body of work, and you will have worked every day. I'm really intrigued by the feel of the paper, how it looks, whether it has, sort of an aged feel to it. I think that, ephemera and different collaged papers tell us a lot about history and our collective shared experiences. And for me, there's a lot to say about evoking memories through my paper. My studio is pretty organized. It's sort of a refuge for me. I've been working in this particular studio for 20 years, so I've got sort of my patterns and ways of working and my rituals. Rituals are pretty important to me in my art process, and I have learned to trust and value them, even if it's starting out by sweeping the floor of the studio in the morning and lighting incense and putting on a Miles Davis album that I absolutely love, and I then sort of let the creativity flow and see where it leads me, and that's pretty much how I've worked for the last 25 years. Once I sort of develop a body of work idea, then I pretty much let one piece lead me to the next. And my most recent work is taking influenced particular pieces from art history that I've really loved and reinterpreting them in a new way, and taking inspiration from the story of the artist, when the piece was done, and interpreting it through my own style of working, through collage and painting. I learn about that artist. I'll read a biography about him. I'll sort of study the pieces, and then that sort of inspires me to produce a piece. And I've gone through Rousseau, Matisse, Monet and Manet, Hopper, Homer, a lot of the artists that I've looked at throughout much of my career, and I'm starting to do pieces that are influenced by them. This piece is influenced by Edward Hopper, obviously, and so I've really taken a long time in trying to get this background to feel like one of his surfaces in maybe one of his paintings, you know, like an old leather couch or a table in a 1940s or 50s cinema or something like that. And obviously the hat is one of my metaphorical images. And these are sort of, you know, floating down. And the bands within the hats are collaged imagery from Hopper. Collage goes back years and years, and everyone has sort of a defined idea of what collage is. And for me, it's just another aspect of my work. Although it's significant and an important element, it's not the only element.